I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Yaron Seidman. He is originally from Israel, and he has his own practice in Connecticut, Greenwich, Connecticut. And he has his own unique method of treating infertility patients. It's called the Hunan method, and he's going to share with us some of his ideas and approach about infertility. And the uniquest thing about his acupuncture treatments are that he bases a lot of his principles on the classics, and so he's also going to share with us some of his ideas about the classics. So, thank you very much for coming today.
So we want to talk about infertility today because that's what you guys are doing also, and that's what I'm doing. But before that, I want to touch on a couple of problems with Chinese medicine as an introduction before I start talking about the infertility in Chinese medicine. One is, over the centuries in China and in Japan, practicing Chinese medicine, many people say in a traditional way. You have a master and he has disciples, like private students that follow him for many years. And then many people would say, this is like keeping secrets. The teacher has disciples, and then it's in the family for many generations. Coming to the last century, the Cultural Revolution in China, and they said, we need to stop with that. We need to bring all the secrets out. And which sounds really good, but when I look at the classics, like the Yellow Emperor, the Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor classic, right? And then, or when I look at home, I have many books at home, like the whole library, the whole wall is full to the ceiling. And I look at it and I say, over the centuries, so many doctors wrote so many things. Like all their life, they work all their life, they read the classics all their life, and then they write a book, what they call like their heart content. And people still say that they keep secrets. So the whole wall is full with books of people saying what they think Chinese medicine is, but still people say that they keep secrets, meaning they don't say everything. The problem with that is that the real essence of Chinese medicine is at least a little bit difficult to understand. So when someone practices Chinese medicine for so many years and all of a sudden he's like enlightened, like he understands something very deep, it's hard to put it in simple words. So they put it like in poems or in kind of verses that when you read them after a long time, you start to understand like the essence of it. Not because the teacher doesn't want to tell you, it's just because it's very deep. So for example, when I look at the Yellow Emperor, this is the the biggest work in Chinese medicine, from more than 2,000 years ago. And there is the first quote in the first chapter. The first chapter it's called Shanggu Tianzhen Lun, the truth of heaven of the ancient sages. And he says, and I'm not going to speak too much Chinese because I know you don't know it, but maybe I'll write it. The first phrase in the book tells actually what is the most important in Chinese medicine, meaning the secret, the most secret, is revealed right in the first sentence. So people, 2,000 years later, just because it's very difficult to understand, they say, this traditional way, they all secrets, they don't share with us. So today we do with Western medicine, everything is very clear, so there's no secrets. Right away, even if you don't know Chinese medicine, you read something about Chinese medicine, you understand it right away. Like as if there's no secrets. So the first chapter of the Neijing, they say, 上古之人，气之道者，发有阴阳，贺有叔叔，因事有解，气之有昌，不枉作劳。 故能幸于深究，而今中其天年，度百岁乃求。And I'll just write it for you so the characters you know. But I explained to you like on the first sentence, but all the secret of Chinese medicine is out. Because in classical time, the first chapter, the first phrase, or even the so I'm not sure that everything is clear, but I'll go over basically what it means, the ancient sages of all time. And this, when they say Shanggu, Gu means the ancient time. Shanggu means even before the ancient time. They knew the Tao. You know the Tao? Like the way. They follow the yin and yang. The fire, yin and yang. Follow yin and yang. They united with the art and numbers. Right? Numbers. Food and drink had their rules, regulation, right? The lifestyle, sleeping habit had the normal way of doing them, right? They didn't do labor for nothing, didn't work for nothing, or they didn't waste their energy for nothing, right? Because of that, the form and the spirit were united, meaning the body and the spirit were united together, living together. And they could live to the fullest what they call tiannian, means the heavenly years, the years that heaven gave them to live so long. They could live it, wouldn't die early, they die until their life is full. So they lived to 100 years, and then they departed. Right? This, the first phrase in the Huangdi Neijing, in the Yellow Emperor, tells the whole secret of Chinese medicine. Like, why do we do Chinese medicine today? Is in these characters. And this I want to explain. It says living to 100 years, and then you live, and then you go to the other world or wherever we go to. When we talk about the Chinese medicine, what Chinese medicine wants to do is to research time. Now, what do I mean with time? Time is when someone gets conceived, mother and father get together, conceived, then the baby comes out, then he grows to be an old person, then he dies. This is a piece of time. Chinese medicine only researched this piece of time. Meaning this is the most important, the biggest secret of Chinese medicine is understanding this time. That's why we do Chinese medicine, to understand this time, like how much a person has to live. And then it says, the different rules that we're doing, like the lifestyle, the food, the diet habit, harmonizing with the arts and the numbers. The art here means all the experience of previous generation. That's what the art means. The numbers, like numerology, this means the scientific part of what we're doing. Like today, say Western medicine, very scientific. It's just this one word. Here is all the science that they have from ancient times. Like in ancient times, Chinese medicine is not something alternative. It's very scientific. In the classics, in the Huangdi Neijing, they said the ancients, they viewed the heavens, they looked on the earth, and then they knew the human affairs. So what does it mean to look at the heavens? Well, they look like this and, just look for something? Looking at the heavens means the three phenomena of heavens, which is the stars, the moon, and the sun. When we learn the heavens, and this is a whole lecture by itself, but just briefly, meaning when you learn the rules of heaven, meaning, the moon, it winds every month and it grows every month, and winds and grows. When the moon is born, meaning just starting, you see that the moon is rising in the morning. when the moon is full, it's rising in the evening. When it's just starting, it rises in the east. When it's full, it rises in the west. So and every month is the same. It's not that next month, when the moon is empty, it rises in the evening. So this rules the sun, how the sun moves. You know, the 4 seasons that we have are determined by the sun. The sun moves to the north and moves to the south, right? When the sun is most in the northern half of the world, when the sun is most in the north, this is summer, right? The sun is right over here. When the sun is most in the south, this is winter, because it's in an angle, far from us, right? But this is every year. And because it's every year, this is like the 4 seasons that we see changing. So all these rules of how the stars are changing, how the moon is changing, this is what the sages said, looking at the heaven, knowing the heaven. And all this, understanding the rules of heaven and earth to understand our life, is what they call Tao. Tao means the rules. This is what Tao is. So he says the heaven, they knew the Tao. So why did they know the Tao? Just because so they can live 100 years. Or they can live to the fullest of the heavenly year, the years that heaven gave them. Right? Which is time. It's a piece of time. We can't grasp it. But today, the science in Chinese medicine and Western medicine is the same. You know, if you look at Chinese medicine today and Western medicine, modern Chinese medicine that is, which if you never read the classics, there's also modern Chinese medicine, which talks a lot about Western medicine with a little bit of yin and yang in it. It's very much like Western medicine, and it's not the research of time. It's the research of space, of a material. So this might be a little bit difficult to understand, but you know, for example, in the classics they say that to treat a disease, we have to do what we call 辩证论治, differentiating the syndrome and then discussing the treatment. There is what is called 症, which is a syndrome. The emphasis here is on this word, 症. What happened today with Chinese medicine and Western medicine is being think. We changed this character to this.
いや、それは合ってます。彼は
Right.
注意のやり方です。
So today, for example, we say
あれで合ってます。
liver qi stagnation. We say stomach fire, right? Even though it's not Western medicine, but this is what we call disease. And it's different than what the sages said. Germ and disease is not the same. But today it's very difficult to understand. It looks the same, almost the same. So in the Shanghanlun time, you know, Zhang Zhongjing and the Shanghanlun, you know this book, right? Right. You learned this in school here in Shanghanlun? Right. Okay. So he talks about Zheng, which is the Zheng. We have the Taiyang, Shaoyang, Yangming. Right?
太陽病、陽明病。
These are like Zheng. So if you say Taiyang, where is Taiyang? So we have the Taiyang meridians, we have the Taiyang organs, we have the Taiyang energy. In the heavens there's Taiyang, on earth there's Taiyang. We have Taiyang. So Zhang Zhongjing, when he say, you know Zhang Zhongjing, the author,
超中継。超中継。
the author of Shanghanlun, when he talks about Zheng syndrome, he talks about this, what we call the 3 yin and 3 yang. He doesn't say liver qi stagnation, even though in his time it's already well known, in the Yellow Emperor. They talk about the organs. They talk about the liver. They talk about the kidneys. You have like the chapter Linglang Midialun talks about the 12 officials. The 12 officials, like this shark. You learn that? Like the heart is the emperor. That's where the spirit is clear. The liver is the general, etc., etc.
Yes.
This is called like the 12 officials. It talks about the organs. And then in other chapters, he says the east is green color, enters the liver is nourished the tendons. And this is before the Shanghanlong. This is from the Yellow Emperor time. So the organs, they're all known. But the Shanghanlong, the author of Shanghanlong, Zhang Zhongjing, he talks about this, differentiating syndrome. Because when we talk about the Taiyang, this is a part of the energy, and we'll talk about it today. Just because I know you are very advanced, that's why I'm talking about these things. Otherwise, for other people, even where in the United States, when I talk to other practitioners who are less exposed to the classics, this is very strange. They almost don't know this. But because you are more classically trained, so I know that you know it, so we talk about it. But when we talk about Taiyang, the heaven has 3 yin and 3 yang. During the year, every year, these 6 energies change. And because the whole Chinese medicine bases itself on one understanding, which is called Tian Ren He Yi, the heaven and men unite together. This is Chinese medicine.
Tenjin Goitsu.
Right? Okay? So when we say the heaven and men unite into one, this is not the figurative, what do you call it? Figuratively. It's really in actions. Our body is like the energy of heaven. We have the body of the earth. The flesh, the bones, the muscle, this is from the earth. That's why when we die, our body goes back to the earth. And then it's disintegrated into the earth, like it's earth. But the energies that we have, the life energy, this piece of time that we talk about, from birth until death, this does not go into the earth. This goes back to heaven. This is not going back into the earth. This is what the sages said, Tian Ren He. The energy of heaven, which is the 3 yang and the 3 yin, is coming into our body. And Zhang Zhongjing, this, and the Shanghanlong, in the classics at that time, when they talk about differentiating the syndrome and then discussing the treatment, is talking about these energies. What kind of energies I have in my body? So if I talk about Taiyang, this could be the Taiyang meridians, which is the bladder and small intestine, or the organs, or the Taiyang is all, and I'll explain it shortly, exactly what it means. The Taiyang energy that goes outside, opens outside, everything in the body that has energy that goes outside is Taiyang. It's not really just the small intestine and the bladder. Right? And for example, if we talk about Yangming, which is the, and again I'll explain it later more, but when the energy comes down back into the body, we call this Yangming. This is not just the large intestine and the stomach. Everything, when it comes down into the body, is called Yang. And in Chinese medicine, which is different than the way that we learn it today, Chinese medicine is what we call Yuan Yun Dong, circular movement. Yuan Yun Dong. This is not this is a movement, but it's not the classical word, so probably you don't know it. Yuan Yun Dong.
It makes sense in Japanese itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a circular exercise.
Circular movement. Circular is good, right? So the Taiyang, Shaoyang, Yangming, Taiyin, Shaoyin, Jueyin, this 3 yang and 3 yin, is actually different parts of this circle. Today we learn it in school as 6 different layers. You know, the taiyang is in the outside. When you catch a cold, it's taiyang. It go inside the constipation, then it's yangming. It go inside into the kidneys, it's shaoyin, for example. Like 6 different layers, which is not the circle. This is like linear. That's how we learn it today, like Western medicine. Western medicine is linear. Linear means you have a headache, you treat the headache. You have a stomach pain, you treat the stomach pain. Cannot be you have stomach pain and you treat the food here, in Western medicine. Because then it becomes very strange. You know, you have pains here, you treat over there. Doesn't make sense in a linear thinking. So what we do today in Chinese medicine is following this Western medicine pattern of linear thinking. Why? Even though we do treat in the foot when you have a headache, right? So we're not exactly like Western medicine, but we still don't do the jump. Rather, we look for the bing. We look for disease. We don't look for the syndrome, right? So everybody study today. You have liver qi stagnation, headache on the top, right? So maybe you use a tai chong or liver 3, you know, because liver meridian, this point, tai chong, right? Just for example, because the liver meridian has inner pathway going up to the head, and then you sedate it, reduce it, and then the headache becomes better. This is called treating the disease. It's not treating the syndrome, and there's a very, very big difference in the understanding, in our understanding. And for infertility, this is very, very important. Because Western medicine, treating infertility, in my opinion, not in such a good way. And we'll explain it today why. What's the difference? But if you treat infertility with Chinese medicine, like Western medicine, this is pretty much as bad. If you don't understand this, this is a problem. That's what we were talking about today. Like, what do I mean? Right? But this is what we're talking about today. Why treating it with Western medicine or Chinese medicine, following this one, is not so good. Why following classical Chinese medicine, treating it like this, is much better. And that's what we'll talk about today. Right? So first I wanted just to explain what is Chinese medicine, which is trying to understand this piece of time from when you're born until you're dying. What does it mean? The Chinese call it heavenly years. Or they say 100 years and then you depart. 100 is not necessarily 100. 100 means a complete number, right? Because there's another sentence in the Neijing that says, you take a 10, you can make 100 out of it. You take 1,000, you make 10,000 out of it. The 10,000, you can divide it more and more and more forever. At the end, they all return back to 1, which is the principle of yin and yang. Principle of yin and yang. So you could take the yin and yang and make more yin and yang out of it, and separate it and separate it. That's what happens with modern medicine and modern Chinese medicine. You know, like I was listening to some talks by some teachers, one of them very famous in the United States, and he said, when you talk about Chinese medicine, you have to be very, very specific. The liver qi could have this, and it could have that, and it could have a little bit like this, and the qi could have a little bit like that. Many, many details. Like a list of 20 liver qi stagnation. Liver qi stagnation this, and liver qi stagnation that. This is like Western medicine. Many, many. The classics, they already say it. You take 10, you make 100. You take 1,000, make 10,000. Forever dividing it. But at the end, it goes back to one principle called yin and yang. There's another sentence in the Neijing, in the Yellow Emperor, says, 自其要者一言而终.
I think you want to write it down.
So I can erase that.
Yes, you can erase that, yeah. It almost makes no sense at all to us.
There's one sentence in the Neijing, it says, 子其要 That's from the Yellow Emperor. It says, if you know the essence of it, one sentence, and you summarize the whole thing, you know everything with one sentence. If you don't know the essence, the most important thing, then it's scattered, dispersed endlessly, forever. Like you never get to it. You can talk many books, you never get it. You know, like before they said, you separate it and separate, don't get the essence of it. The essence of it we just wrote before. The sages, they knew the Tao. They follow yin and yang. This is this essence. You know this, then one sentence. This first sentence in the Yellow Emperor is summarized everything. The whole 200,000 characters you have in the Yellow Emperor. This one sentence, everything. Meaning, why do we learn Chinese medicine? Is to understand time. This time, from when you're born until you die. But this does not finish here, when you're born until you die. Because before you die, something else happens, which people get pregnant. And then there's another generation. So that's another time. And before this person dies, there's another generation. So this Yellow Emperor is already 2,500 years ago, or 2,000 years ago. Many generations ago. So when we say really we want to know time, it's not really one person. So this brings me to explain to you this. If you understand the essence of it, one sentence, and you can summarize everything. So what do we do with Chinese medicine when we treat infertility? This is not the same as Western medicine, and it's not the same as modern Chinese medicine. What Western medicine and modern Chinese medicine do is they look at this disease. You can't get pregnant? This is a disease. I want to solve this disease. I want to get you pregnant. Right? That's it. Then we're happy. But this is not what Chinese medicine say. Chinese medicine say what we need to do is fix this time. Meaning, a woman can get pregnant. That means that 100 generations after her not gonna be here. Like 1,000,000 years later are lost if she doesn't get pregnant. What we want to do with Chinese medicine is fix that when we treat infertility. And that's a big difference. It sounds the same, but not the same at all. Because if you don't understand its essence, it's scattered forever. You can treat the disease, and sometimes even solve the disease. Right? Like with you do IVF, you know in English, right? IVF, or other methods even with modern Chinese medicine. And you get a woman pregnant. This is still not success. I mean, for the patient, it's great success. For the acupuncturist, also great success. But for Chinese medicine, maybe it's not a success. Because we don't know what's going to happen 20 generations later. You know, like there was a study, I think I talked to you maybe
Yes.
about it, in Holland, about people in the Second World War in Holland. They had the famine, no food, and there were a lot of stress in the war. And they found out 2 generations later, like not their children, but the children, that they had some health problems. In Western medicine they say genetically, because of the stress hormones that the grandparents had. Now it's 50 or 60 years later, they said these children now start having problems. Now they're adults already. Because 50 years ago, the parents had stress, which was a considerable stress, not just a little bit stress, right? During the war, and didn't have food to eat and things like that. So all of a sudden, Western medicine also start realizing that maybe just treating this right now is maybe not enough. Because next generation is not less important. 2 generations, 5 generations later is not less important. In Chinese medicine, in the first quote that we said before, right? The sages, they knew the Tao. They followed the yin and yang. Why? To live to the fullest, the heavenly years of them, their children, their grandchildren, and 2,000 years later, today. This is Chinese medicine. So when we talk about Chinese medicine, we said, yeah, listen, I get someone pregnant, why not? That's what all the IVF clinic says too. Why not? Get pregnant. But think about it. If they get drugs and they have side effects, sometimes severe side effects, and I see patients sometimes, I feel really sad. Sometimes they come for me for acupuncture and they do drugs, like they come to you. I feel really sad when I look at the patient and I don't give her herbs because she does drugs, so I don't know what's going to happen with the herbs and drugs. So I just do acupuncture and she comes healthy. She can't get pregnant, but she looks healthy, she feels good, the tongue looks good, the pulse feels good, and then she starts the drugs. And then all of a sudden the coating on the tongue start to peel in the back, which is the worst place to peel, right? Where the kidneys, where the lower burner is, start to peel. And then she said, I start feel really swollen here. And at night I start having hot flashes. And the doctor said it's normal side effects. For Chinese medicine, there's nothing about side effects. Side effects in Chinese medicine, like if I give herbs to someone and they have side effects, not so often, but sometimes, maybe, this is not a good direction. This is a deterioration of the direction. So in Chinese medicine, if this happens, and it doesn't happen often, but if it does, immediately we change course. We don't say, listen, if you take these herbs, it's known that you have side effects, so just live with it. And then you deteriorate more and more. And I said, yeah, it's good, because I know that these herbs can get you pregnant. So you take them more and more, even if you feel more and more miserable. This doesn't make sense. This means that I don't understand this, and I don't understand time. Because if the mother or the father, but let's say we just talk about the mother now, by the time of conception, or before conception, or during the pregnancy, she start feeling bad, the pulse is not good, the tongue deteriorates, she start having hot flashes. So let's just think about it in our heart. Could that be good for the next generation? Maybe it doesn't make difference, maybe, because Western medicine many times goes back to this assumption. You can't prove it. To prove it, you need to make 100 years study. And even if you make 100 years study, you can still not prove it. Because in Western scientific way, you have to isolate the item that you want to prove. So she only takes drugs, and she doesn't do anything else for the next 50 years. She doesn't have car accidents, she doesn't eat bad food, she doesn't have anxiety and stress in the family. You can't do that. These studies can't be done. But Chinese medicine, the way it works, is not like this. It's not like science, but rather it's scientific. Scientific means we observe the rules of nature, the stars, the moon, the sun. We observe the rule on the earth. And then we sit quietly and we try to make sense out of it. We try to understand what they said. The sages, they knew the Tao. We try to understand this Tao. They say, what is this Tao? They said they follow yin and yang. So we said, okay, we try to understand what yin and yang. Like in our mind, in our heart, we try to understand yin and yang. And then we try to apply it to food and diet, lifestyle, what we said, and not wasting our energy for nothing, right? Then we could reach this time concept, which they say is the heavenly years, right? Then we can live to the fullest, 100 years or whatever the full time is. But if we don't understand it, and then we make the mother sick, or we make her yin and yang not good when she gets pregnant. So we got her pregnant, but this is a small victory and a huge loss, right? Because we want this time for the next generation and the next generation. It's not like we want to get her pregnant and we get our money and that's it. Everybody's happy. She's happy, I'm happy, the doctor is happy, everybody's happy. It's not about that. I want to get my patients pregnant. I want to get their kids to have long life. I want to have their kids get pregnant and have their kids have long life. This is Chinese medicine. This is called know its essence. One sentence and you summarize it all. Like this is where Chinese medicine, or at least classical Chinese medicine, that looks for zheng, looks for syndrome. You know, the 3 yin and 3 yang. This is what we do with Chinese medicine. If we understand the 3 yin and 3 yang, we see a patient, you know how to turn it to make it go round again. If you think like this, there's nothing to turn. It's only this disease. You treat the disease, headache gone, finished. I take my money, you go home, you're happy, I'm happy, everybody goes away. This is this. This is modern Western medicine and, unfortunately, modern Chinese medicine. Because if you study the classics, the whole purpose of studying the classics is to make your brain think, like to grind your brain. And I was talking to Joe yesterday about an example, that if you have an alarm clock next to your bed, you know, and every morning it's in the same place, and it rings at the same time, let's say 6 o'clock in the morning. It rings, wakes you up. After a little while, a few days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, when it wakes you up, you don't really need to open your eyes to turn it off. You know, you just do like this, and you turn it off. How is that possible? In Western medicine, this is not possible. How can you reach to this clock without looking at it? But you can. Why? Because you grind your habit to reach to it automatically. But let's say tomorrow morning someone came, your sister or friend or something, someone came and took the watch, put it under the bed. Well, you don't know. You go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, guaranteed you can't reach to it unless you open your eyes and you look for it. When we talk about learning the Chinese medicine classics, is to learn where this clock is. Because right now, we're living in the modern world. Our mind, if we want it or not, is used to reach to this Western medicine clock. So we use Chinese medicine, we say yin, we say yang, we say herbs, we say acupuncture. Normally, in normal acupuncture school, it still doesn't train you to reach to the Chinese medicine clock. You know, it says you're good already. You know you're very smart, very intelligent. Immediately you can reach. I don't think there is one student that comes into acupuncture school today and you explain to him yin and yang and immediately they get it. There is no one student. You know, you say, listen, the yin and yang is day and night. It's hot and cold. One is inside the other, one is generating the other. Finish. There's not one person in our world today that cannot understand this. But this is when they say the sages, they knew the Tao, they follow the yin and yang, they don't talk about this yin and yang. Right? They don't write this in the first paragraph, meaning that everybody immediately can understand it right off the bat. If they know something, if they, the auto mechanics, they are dentists, it doesn't matter what they do. You say yin and yang, day and night, hot and cold, everybody knows it right away. What they say here is different. And that's what we're talking about today. What they say here, understanding yin and yang, is later on in the Yellow Emperor, they talk the whole book about 3 yin and 3 yang. The whole book. Why? Because these are the energies that we have in heaven. The 3 yin and the 3 yang energy that the man unite with heaven. That's the energy that we have. Together, you summarize them into one thing, which is yin and yang. You separate them, it's 3 yin and 3 yang. But in reality, it's one thing, it's yin and yang.